Death at Bishop's Keep. Chapter 18. With the divine permission, I will apply myself to the great work, which is to purify and exalt my spiritual nature, that I may at length attain to be more than human, and thus gradually raise and unite myself to my higher and divine genius. Candidate's Oath. The Order of the Golden Dawn. On the morning following her excursion to the Colchester excavation, Kate went with Aunt Sabrina to the library, taking with her a pad and paper and her fountain pen. On the newly installed desk in an alcove by the window sat a gleaming black and gold Remington Standard typewriter, arrived just the day before. Kate couldn't keep her eyes off it, imagining how speedily Beryl Bardwell would now be able to produce chapters of her story for which she had a new title, The Conspiracy of the Golden Scarab, which reflected some important modifications she had decided to make in the plot. Aunt Sabrina sat down at her desk. "Did you discover anything at Colchester?" she asked. Her tone was half anticipatory, half apprehensive, Kate thought. "I discovered that Sir Archibald Fairfax doesn't permit women on the site of his archaeological excavations," Kate said. "I was summarily hauled into his field tent and instructed to leave the premises, right in front of Sir Charles Sheridan, who was there, he told me, to discuss the murder." Aunt Sabrina frowned. "Sir Charles remains interested in the murder?" "Yes," Kate said. "He had earlier been to talk with Inspector Wainwright of the Colchester Police." Aunt Sabrina's face was intent. "Has the identity of the dead man yet been determined?" Kate shook her head. "Unfortunately, no. After we left Mr. Fairfax, Sir Charles told me of the few clues he and the police have obtained. After being taken to the field tent yesterday, Kate had listened at length with as much forbearance as she could summon to Sir Archibald's opinion of women, who were in some incomprehensible way, it seemed, so potentially devastating to historical inquiry as horses, water buffalo, and indeed policemen. When the archaeologist at last stopped shaking his turkey-red wattles at her, she had taken her leave. Sir Charles, who seemed startled by her sudden appearance at the door of the field tent and wryly amused her by her walking costume, accompanied her to the spot where Pocket was waiting with the dog cart. On the way he told her what he had learned from his meeting with Inspector Wainwright. "The police have recovered the knife tip that appears to be from the murder weapon," Kate told her aunt, "as well as a railway return ticket from London to Dover. In addition, Sir Charles has discovered that the victim appears to have driven to the excavation in a light carriage, iron wheel drawn by a horse lame in the left hind foot. The victim walked unsteadily, probably assisted by a walking stick. And the scarab ring," she added with a close look at her aunt, "is inscribed." "Inscribed?" Aunt Sabrina asked quickly. "Sir Charles copied the inscription, which appears to consist of hieroglyphics, and has asked an Egyptologist to decipher it." "I see," Aunt Sabrina said. Her expression was unreadable. "But the police have no suspect." "No," Kate said, "and according to Sir Charles they may not discover any. He does not have high opinion of their abilities." Aunt Sabrina straightened her shoulders. "In the circumstances," she said briskly, "I believe we can conclude our inquiry into the matter, Catherine." Kate frowned. "But I haven't seen Sir Charles' photographs of the murder victim," she objected. "They may offer some clue." "They may indeed." Aunt Sabrina's mouth was firm. "But I must insist, Catherine. I do not wish you to press the matter. Most particularly, I do not wish you to call attention to my interest in this affair. If Sir Charles happens to show you the photographs, that is one thing, but you must not press him for them." She leaned forward, her look even more intense than before. "Do you understand?" "Yes, Aunt," Kate said reluctantly, feeling a sharp disappointment. Her murder investigation was closed before it had even scarcely been opened. But it wasn't just disappointment she felt. She was deeply curious. Why would Aunt Sabrina ask her to look into a murder and then force her withdrawal before anything definite was learned? What was Aunt Sabrina's interest in the matter? "In any event," Aunt Sabrina said, shifting some papers on her desk, "we have other important things to command our attention. I would like to give you an introduction to the Order of the Golden Dawn so that you will understand the work that you will be asked to do." Her face tightened imperceptibly. "But I must have your promise, Catherine, that you will not reveal what I tell you. The business of our order is quite secret, and the history is meant for initiates only." Of course, Aunt Sabrina, Kate said, pushing the murder investigation out of her mind and settling herself to take notes. She would reveal nothing she learned about the Golden Dawn, but that did not mean that Beryl Bardwell could not borrow an idea or two here and there. The Golden Dawn, Aunt Sabrina said, is a secret fraternity dedicated to exploring mysteries of the spirit through magical and occult practices. I believe you said that it was recently established. Recently, yes, but on an age-old authority. 7 years ago, Dr. William Westcott found, by accident, an ancient manuscript written in cipher. How interesting, Kate said. She sat forward in her chair. An ancient cipher document would be a marvelous plot device in her story. Aunt Sabrina rose and went to the fireplace. After some effort, Dr. Westcott discovered the key to the cipher and transcribed the document, which revealed the outlines of an ancient occult order. Dr. Westcott was in a position to understand its significance because he is a Freemason and a student of Western occultism, as well as a medical doctor of good reputation and coroner for north-east London. With tongs, she took a lump of coal from the Japanese dark black coal box and added it to the grate. The fire blazed into a shower of sparks. Dr. Westcott then asked MacGregor Mathers to expand on the outlines and create a series of rituals. This Mr. Mathers, Kate said, he is the one you mentioned yesterday, the man who established the temple in Paris? Yes, Aunt Sabrina said. The Athur temple. Mathers is a... She returned to her chair and sat down, her brows pulled together. I don't mean to be uncharitable, she said reluctantly, but I must confess to disliking the man. He's arrogant, conceited, quite pretentious about his magical knowledge, and always in need of funds. He's sponged on Dr. Westcott for some years, and now Annie Horniman virtually supports him and his wife Moina in Paris. She made an exasperated gesture. But to give the devil his due, the man is an excellent ritualist. He expanded the materials in the cipher documents to create the initiation rites for the order. Kate was thoughtful. There were so many frauds about. The Order of the Golden Dawn would need unimpeachable credentials. The authority you mentioned, she asked, where did it come from? From a certain Fräulein Anna Sprengel, a chief of a German Rosicrucian order called Die Goldene Dämmerung. Dr. Westcott found her name and address in the cipher document and wrote to her. She wrote back authorizing him to establish a London temple. He called it the Isis Urania Temple and invited Mathers to join him as his co-chief. Fräulein Sprengel and Dr. Westcott exchanged several letters until he received the news of her demise. There are other temples beside those in London and Colchester. 5 altogether, Aunt Sabrina said, and several hundred members, but we do not have a reliable membership roster. That will be your first task, Catherine. You will write to each of the temples and ask them to send a correct list of their members. When you're finished, I will ask you to sort and organize the rather disordered mass of papers that Dr. Westcott had accumulated, which now reside in boxes under your work table. When that is done, I would like you to copy the cipher manuscript for one of our members, Willie Yeats, an Irish poet who wishes to make a study of it. You will enjoy meeting him, I think. He has a deep interest in the tarot, which is used quite frequently in our rituals. The tarot? The tarot cards are esoteric cards derived from an ancient Egyptian magical system. Those we use have been drawn by Moina Mathers from her husband's design. Each card represents a particular psychic state, a sort of station along an allegorical journey toward a higher spiritual knowledge. As such, the deck serves as a kind of Bible for the order. Ah, Kate said thoughtfully. Beryl Bardwell was becoming quite interested in all of this. I would like to see these cards when it is convenient. Aunt Sabrina shook her head. I'm afraid you can't see the cards, Catherine. The privilege is open only to members. I see. Then, being a person who acted upon the impulse of the moment, she added decidedly, well, then I must become a member. It was not so much that she wanted to join a magical society. Kate was naturally skeptical, and although she respected her aunt's occult interests, she was doubtful about mystical orders in general. But the story Beryl Bardwell was writing featured the beautiful medium Mrs. Bartlett, who might be expected to understand and use such things as tarot cards. If becoming a member of an occult society would give Beryl Bardwell ready access to a magician or two who might serve as models, Kate was more than ready. Aunt Sabrina gave her a searching look. "Are you quite sure you want to join? You're not just seeking to please me." "I am seeking to please myself," Kate assured him. "Is it difficult to become a member?" Aunt Sabrina smiled. "Not at all. In fact, your joining would make our work much more enjoyable, and I would feel more at ease in sharing the material. But I suggest that you attend a gathering or two before you make up your mind. The next one is on Saturday afternoon. Several members from London will be there, as well as a few visitors. It is said that Oscar Wilde will come. He is an admirer of Mr. Farnsworth and his wife Constance, formerly belonged to the London Temple. He is to bring a man of his acquaintance, Doyle, I believe, the writer of those detective mysteries that have become so popular." Kate's heart leaped up. Oscar Wilde was chiefly a literary curiosity, at least that's how American papers portrayed him, but Conan Doyle? Perhaps she could speak to him and find out why he had allowed Professor Moriarty to fling Sherlock Holmes into the abyss, thereby bringing the series to an untimely end. If the successful Holmes had been Beryl Bartwell's character, she would not have killed him.